Despite the fact that you're trying, I was still
So they did the
comes out. I think we should bear off and say the wonderful people.
You should put a triennial if you read it slowly. It can take a long time. Yep, yep. That's what extends the thing. But that's what extends the joy too, right?
And kids come up and read their education programs.
That would be great. You could do it for the 66 if you like.
So that's why you want to be careful what you.
You'll be surprised what comes back.
Yeah.
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
So remember in the olden days before COVID when we had lots of different people do Sukkot Zimra? You're invited. You can do it. And so in honor of Educator Shabbat,
It's a small crowd too, so.
Maureen is going to start us off with the Sukkot, and then I'll go greet people. So page 65, we rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sek v'bina lehavchin ben yom u'ben laila.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach livrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokev kefufim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam roka haaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa li kol tzarki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechim et tzadek gaver. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam ozer Yisrael bigvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tifara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanotein li'av kolam. Unenu hayom l'koyam l'cheinu chesed urachamim ben yachav v'nei choroenu v'tigmelenu chasadim tovim baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael.
Amen.
Ashreinu ma tov chalkeinu, u'ma na'im gorelenu, ma yafa yerushateinu. Ashreinu she'anachnu mashkimim u'maridim, erev haboker ve'omrim pamayim b'chol yom. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad. Kadesh et shimcha al makdashei shemelcha, v'kadesh et shimcha ba'olamelcha, v'yishuacha tarim v'tagbi yokarneinu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh et shimcha barabim. Yehi ratzon milfanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu, shetitei chalkeinu b'toratecha, v'nihi yemi talmidav shel Aharon HaKohen, ohev shalom v'rodev shalom, ohev et habriot, v'mekavan laTorah.
Kaddish Ramadan is on page 71. Mourners of your yard site, please rise.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'miramein. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'miramein. Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidei v'al kol Talmidei Hon. V'al kol man da'askin ba'oraita, div atra haden v'div v'chol atar v'atar. Yehei lachon uchon shlama rabah china v'chista v'rachamin. V'chayin arichin u'mzona redicha. U'for kanam min kodam avahon div ishmaya v'miramein. Yehei shlama rabah min shmaya. V'chaim tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'miramein. Oseh shalom b'mramav, v'barachamav yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'miramein.
Hayam Yom Shabbat Kodesh, Shebo Hayu Havim Beit HaMikdash, Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat. Odinu v'misevad, shenim v'ra'ananim yiyu, le'agin ki yashar adai, tzuri v'lav la'tabo.
Turn to page 81.
Mizmor Shir Chanukah Tabai LeDavid. Afakta mispedi lamacholi, piktakta saki vat azreni simcha, laman yizmercha chavav v'lo yidom, Adonai Elohai le'olam odaka.
Warner's Cottage, page 82. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yalma divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala v'zman kariv v'miramein. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush bechata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'miramein. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'miramein. Oseh shalom b'mramav, v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'miramein. You rise for Baruch Shamar, page 83.
Baruch Shemar v'haya ha'olam, Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu.
Yachid kei ha'olamim, melech meshuvah u'poar, adei ad shmo hagadol, Baruch atah Adonai, melech me'olav v'tishbachot.
Amen. You may be seated.
Hodu l'Adonai kiru b'shmo, hodiu v'mim alilotav. Ki gadol anayim lo me'ov, v'norahu al kol Elohim, ki kol Elohei hamim alilim, v'Adonai shemayim asa, hoved alefanav, oz v'charbad b'mekamo. Ramamu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtachavu l'adam raglav kadoshu. Ramamu Adonai Eloheinu v'shtachavu l'har kadsho ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. V'vurachum yichaper b'am v'lo yashchiv v'bal hashiva po v'lo ya'ir kol chamato. Adonai Tzvaot, Ashrei Adam Boteach Bach, Adonai Hoshia, HaMelech, Yoneinu V'yom Parenu, Hoshia et Amecha Bereket Nacholatecha, Reim V'nasem Ad Holam. Ani b'chastecha v'takti ageli bi b'shuatecha shir l'Adonai ki gamal alai l'manatzeach mizmor l'David. Yularetzonim refi v'goli b'ilfanecha Adonai tzuri v'goli v'David meshonato et tamalifnei Avimelech v'gashir v'elah. Hodeh Adonai nefesh avadav v'lo yashmu kol hakosim bo tefillah l'Moshe ish ha'Elohim. V'hinom Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, Maseh Yadenu konana aleinu, Maseh Yadenu konanehu, Yoshe b'seit yom, B'sel shadayit lona. Yikre'eni ve'enehu imo anochi v'tzara kalseo v'akabdehu orkim yimas b'yehu v'e'er b'shuati orkim yimas b'yehu v'e'er b'shuati Hallelujah, Hallelujah Hashem Adonai, Hallelujah Abdei Adonai. Beit Yisrael baruch et Adonai, Beit Aharon baruch et Adonai, Beit HaLevi baruch et Adonai, Yireh Adonai baruch et Adonai, Baruch Adonai Mitzion, Shochen Yerushalayim, Hallelujah.
Page 92, we rise for Psalm 136.
Hodu l'Adonai ki tov, ki
Yirelam
le'olam
chasto.
chasto. Noten lechem l'chol basar, ki le'olam chasto. Hodu le'al hashemayim, ki le'olam chasto.
May be seated.
Rananu tzadikim b'Adonai, l'shirim nevatila. Nafshenu chiktal Adonai, Zvenu maginenu hu, Ki vo yismak libenu, K'vishem kodsho v'taknu, Yichasach Adonai aleinu, Kasher yikan elach, Mizmor shir l'yom HaShabbat. Odinu Sevad, Shenim Vira Ananim Yu, Leagik Yashar Adonai, Suribala Latabo, Adonai Malak Ilave. Edo Takanem Nume Olavedcha, Nala Kodesh Adonai, Leorak Yomim, Yichavod Adonai Leolam, Yismach Adonai B'Masam. Welcome Yochaper Avam Velo Yashchi Virbala Shiva Povelo Yair Kokamato Ananai Yoshia Hamelech Yonenu B'Yom Kareinu Ashver Shebetecha Onya Lucha Salah. Tihilat Adonai Daber Pi Viberei Kol Basar Shem Kacho Leilam Ba'ad V'nachnu Nemerek Yam Yatavi Ad Olam Hallelujah Hallelujah Li Nafshi Et Adonai. Yimlok Adonai Le'olam Elohai Tzion L'dor V'dor Hallelujah Hallelujah Ki Tov Zemra Eloheinu Ki Na'im Nevatila. Magi Divarav Liakov, Kukav Mishpatav Yisrael, Lo Asachen L'chol Goy, Mishpatim Bal Yadom, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Adonai Min HaShamayim, Hallelujah, B'Amromim. Vayarem Keren Le'amot, Hilal L'chol Chasidav, Livnei Yisrael Am Karovo, Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Shir L'Adonai Shir Chadash, Hilato B'chal Chasidim. Le'stor Malcheihem Bezikim V'nikbedehem V'chavlei Varzel Lasok Bahem Mishpat Katuv Hadarhu L'chol Chasidav Hallelujah. Dai da 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 dai 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 Hallelujah 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 El Bekadsho Hallelujah Birkia Uzov Hallelujah Hallelujah, Berav Gulo, Hallelujah, Beteka Shafar, Hallelujah, Benevel Vechinor, Hallelujah, Betofu Machor, Hallelujah, Beminim Ve'ugav, Hallelujah, Betziltzele Shama, Hallelujah, Betziltzele Trua, Kol Hanshama Hallelujah, 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 Kol Hanshama Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, Se'niflo levado, Uvaruk Shem Kvodo Le'olam, V'yimalei Kvodo et kol ha'aretz, Amen v'Amen.
Page 101, please rise.
V'yavarak David et Adonai le'nei kol ha'kahal, V'yomer David. Atahu Adonai ha'Elohim, asher b'charta be'Avram, v'hotzeto me'or kasdim, v'santa shemo Avraham, u'matzata el levavonim alefanecha, v'charodim al habrit. Hayam bakata lifnehem v'yavru v'toch hayam bayabasha ve'ot rodfehem hishlaktavim tzalot kamo evan kamayim azim yashad Adonai bayom hahu et Yisrael miyad Mitzrayim Vayir Yisrael et hayad hagadola asher asa Adonai v'Mitzrayim vayir'u ha'am et Adonai v'yaminu b'Adonai Moshe avdo asher shir Moshe Yisrael teshirah Ki l'Adonai amlucha moshav hagoyim ve'alu moshi'im b'har Tzion lishpot et ha'esav ve'atel Adonai amlucha ve'hayad Adonai lamelech al kol ha'aretz v'yom hahu yeh Adonai echad v'shmo echad.
May be seated. Read together at the bottom of page 103 in English. At dawn I seek you, refuge, rock sublime. My morning prayers I offer, and those at evening time. I tremble in your awesome presence contrite, for my deepest secrets lie stripped before your sight. My tongue, what can it say? My heart, what can it do? What is my strength? What is my spirit too? But should music be sweet to you in mortal key, your praises will I sing, so long as breath in me.
Nishmat kol chai, tivarech shemcha Adonai Eloheinu. Nehalelecha, uneshabechecha, unfarecha, unbarech et shem kodshecha kamor leDavid. Bachi nafshi et Adonai, v'chol karavai et shem kodsho. Ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha, Hagadol b'gvot shemecha, Hagibor lanetzach v'nahora b'norotecha, Hamelech hayoshev al kisei ram b'nisah.
Yasher koach to Maureen, and thank you to Steve for helping out this morning. We are honoring Educator Shabbat by having educators in all aspects of our service. So Mark is one of our newest friends to the community and a professor, and is going to lead us in Shachrit, beginning on page 105.
Shachin ad maharam v'kara shemao B'fi yesharim tisalahol Divrei tzadikim tisparach Uvilshon chasidim tisramam Uvkerev kadashim tiskadav
Machalat revot hamachka beit Yisrael.
Shekein chavas kol hatzurim lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoseinu L'das alel l'shabeach l'foer l'rameim l'dir l'varech l'aleu kales Al kol divrei shiros v'sishpachos David ben Yishai
Lecha Meshichecha, we rise.
Yishtabach
Simcha le'ad malkeinu.
Brachas v'odos me'atav yad olam baruch atah Adonai El melech gadol batishpachos El ados adon aniflos Habocher b'shirei zimra Melech el chei olamim Yiskada v'yiskada shmei Rabbo
Amen.
Divrach Yerusev yamlich malchusei
B'chayechono yamechono chayetecho beit Yisrael Bagala hu v'zman kariv
V'maru
Amen. Yishmer Abba mevorach le'olam le'omer yitbarach
Yisparach v'yishtabach v'yispor v'yisramah v'yisnaseh v'yishadar v'yishaleh v'yishalach shmei d'kudsha
Barechu
Leila min kol birchasa v'shirasa
tushbechata v'nechemata damiran ve'alma.
v'maru
Amen. The call to worship, the Baruch Hu, page 107.
Baruch Hu es Adonai havarach Baruch Adonai baruch le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzir v'rei choshech oseh shalom u'vares hakol
You may be seated.
Ein kirk echad an Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh v'ein zulas v'malkeinu l'chayei olam haba efes b'tcho golenu limos hamashiach v'ein domeh lecha moshienu l'zchias hamesim El Adonai
kol ha'masim v'aruchum v'orach v'fi kol esham Kalo v'tuvo ma'alei olam Da'at u'tvona sovavim oto Hamikael al-chayat ha'kodesh V'neda b'chavod al ha'merchava Zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed v'rachamim lifnei kevodo Tovei mehora shehara Eloheinu yitzhara b'das Bina u'masker koach v'kura Natan bahen liyot moshlim b'kerev tevel Elohim zivum pikim noga Naziva mechol ha'olam Tzemechem b'tzeitam Mesasim bevoam Osim be'em aretzon konam Per b'chavon Nonim lishmo Tzol averina Lezecher malchuto Kara l'shemesh Ba'yisrachur
Rava Iskin
Tzurat alvana Shevach Nonim lo kohot tzeva hamarom Tiferet ugedula Tzrafim be'ofanim b'chayot ha'kodesh V'gala sheshava mikol ha'masim b'yom ha'shvim Yichnolem Hashem k'askei kodon
Kalam ahavim, kalam barim, kalam gibarim, v'kalam osim b'mav yirah ratzon konom, v'kalam paschim es b'yam, b'kdushav Torah b'shiro zimro, u'marchim, u'mshabchim, u'mavarim, Umaritim Makdishim Umamlichim
Hashem El HaMelech HaGadol HaKadoshu
V'cholam Mekablim Alehem Omach Shemayim Zeh Mizeh V'nosnim Reshus Elozeh Lakdish Liotram B'nachas Ruach Safa v'ravim ukadosha, kulam kecharonim ve'omrim b'yira.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech kol haaretz kevodo.
V'hafanim v'chayos HaKodesh Parash Gadol Misnasim L'masarafim L'yomasam Shapchim v'yomrim
Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo Le'avak nivsei melech hai v'kayam
Or Chadash Al Tzion Toir V'nizkech Ulanu Meira Le'oro Baruch Atah Adonai Yotzei HaMe'aros
So on page 111 in the Sim Shalom and in 154 here, we are in the bracha before Shema. Many have the custom of gathering the corners of the tzitzit, imagining a redeemed world where we find ourselves drawn close to God.
V'havienu l'shalom erbakat fasaret v'salichenu kamirs l'artzeinu ki el poel Yeshua sata uvanu v'charta mikolam v'lashon v'kiraftanu l'shimcha gadol sela b'emes l'orav slecha u'yachedcha b'yava baruch atah Adonai Abachir b'mo Yisrael b'yava Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad
V'yohavta es
Adonai Elohecha v'chol avacha v'chol me'acha
v'chol ילדיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, ושבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך, ושפך בקומך, וקשרתם לו שא ידיך, ויהיו תפוס בין עיניך, וכספתם אז ביתך וישערך. Adonai Elohechem emes, v'dor v'dor u'kayam u'shma kayam, v'chisan achahon u'machusav emunasa la'kayames, v'chaim chayim v'namanim lechamodim la'adol la'olamim v'asim. Galena, Galavasena, Yatrena, Tzur Yeshua Seinu, Parenu, Matilenu, Me'olam Shemecha, Ein Elohim, Zulatecha, Ezrat V'tenu V'techu.
So we are on page 114. In a moment, we'll rise and then take time for our personal prayer, giving thanks for the gift of Shabbat and recognizing how unique it is in a world of constant motion.
Ram v'nisa gadol v'nora, mashpil geim magbi hashefalim, motzi hasirim ufadel navi, v'yozer david, v'yonel yamo b'yeshavam elav, Tahilas le'elyon, Baruch u'mavarach Moshe u'bnei Yisrael, l'chanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yomru kulam, michamocha b'elim Adonai, michamocha neder b'kodesh nora seilon osechelem, shira chadasha shipog yolim, v'shimchos v'asayam, yachar kulam hadu v'himlechu v'yamaru, Adonai imloch le'olam amen. Tzur Yisrael, v'ma'ez ras Yisrael, v'feinu mecha Yehuda Yisrael, Galeinu Adonai tzvah shemo, Kadosh Yisrael baruch atah Adonai.
When you finish your Amidah, the repetition will begin on 115b.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'lev Avseinu v'lev Abraham v'lev Yitzchak v'lev Yaakov v'lev Sarah v'lev Rivka v'lev Rachel v'lev Leah Goel HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanara El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Konei HaKol v'Zocher Chazdei Avos Umevi Goel Nevenehem L'man Shema V'Yahava Melech Ozer Ufokei Moshiach Mogid Baruch atah Adonai Magin Abraham Ufokei Tzara Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayim Mesim Atarav L'Hoshia Mechalkel Chaim B'Chesed Mechayim Mesim B'Rachamim Avim Somek Naflim B'Rafei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umkayim Emunasav Lishenei Afar Michamal Kabach Yoros Omid Al-Melach Melech Menishu Mechayim Umatzmiach Yeshua Ne'emanata L'chayos Mesi Baruch atah Adonai B'chei HaMesi Mekadesh et Shimcha ba'olam Kashem shemakdishim oso b'shmei maram Kach kasuv al yad nevi'echa v'kara ze el ze v'amar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaos, Melech ha'aretz Kadosh, Oz b'kol Gadol, Adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol, Misnasim l'masarafim, l'masam baruch yomeru. Baruch kavod Adonai Mimkamacha Malkeinu Safia V'simlach aleinu Kimachakim anachnu lach Masai timloch b'tzion makar v'yameinu Le'olam vo'ed, le'olam vo'ed, le'olam vo'ed tishkol. Tiskara v'siskarash b'soch Yerushalayim mircha. L'dor v'dor, l'dor v'dor, l'netzach netzatim. V'yeinu sirena machusecha. Kadavar amor b'shivei Yosecho. Haidei David Mashiach tikecho.
be seated. The repetition continues, page 117.
Yismach Moshe b'manas chelko kivenemon Arasalo kalil tiferes peroshan asata b'yimda lefanecha Ar Sinai Ushnei Chasavani Haori Beyadav V'chasav Bahem Shemirat Shabbos V'chasav Bahem Shemirat Shabbos V'chein kasu V'sara Secho V'chein kasu V'sara Secho V'shamru B'nei Yisrael Es HaShabbos Lasos es HaShabbos L'dorosam Baris Olam Einir B'nei Yisrael Otzi Le'olam Ki shesh yomim Adonai Es HaShamayim V'es Haaretz U'bayom Hashvi'i Shabbos V'yinachash V'lo Nesatar N'Eleinu L'Goyei Ha'aratzos V'lo Yinchato Malkeinu L'Avdei Chasilim V'gam Yinchasa Lo Yishkenu Arelim Ki L'Yisrael Amcho Nesato B'Yava L'Zera Yaakov Asher B'Macharto Mekadeshe Shavi Kulam Yisbou Vayisangu mituvacha, vayisangu mituvacha, uhashvi rati sabah, v'kidashta. Ramdas yomim also karosa zechir lamase bereshis. Ramdas yomim also karosa zechir lamase bereshis. Eloheinu v'Elahei Avoseinu V'tzevinu chaseinu K'asheinu v'mitzvosecha V'sein chelkeinu v'sorosecha Sabeinu mituvecha V'samcheinu b'shosecha V'tahir libeinu V'sheves havodah l'ribeisecha v'shei Yisrael V'sfilasam b'yavas kabel b'ratzon V'sil ratzon tamid avodah Yisrael amecha V'zechazeno eineinu b'shuv b'letzion V'rachamim baruch ato Adonai Amachaz yeshkino savatzion Yadim anachalash Shevacholei serev avoker v'tzarayim Hatov ki lachol rachamecha V'amrachem ki lo samuch hasadecha me'olam kivinu lach V'yakulam yisrach v'yisramam Shimcha malkeinu tamid le'olam bo'ed V'chol ha'chayim yaducha selah V'yahalu et shimcha be'emes Poel yishuseinu v'yishuseinu selah baruch ato Adonai Ato shimcha chanu Elohim Eloheinu v'Elahei Avoseinu Barucheinu v'abracham Shileshes b'Torah Haksuva ידי משה עבדך אמרה מפי אהרון ובניו כהנים הקדשך כאמור יברכך אדוני וישמרך יואר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונך יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישים לך שלום. שים שלום טובה וברכה חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד באור פניך כי באור פניך נשאת לנו אדוני אלוהינו תורס חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך ברוך אתה אדוני מברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
Near the Kaddish Shalem, page 138. Amen. Amen. Eshmer Abba Mevorach Leolam 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 Aleinu v'akol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen. Yashar koach. Well, now I invite Cantor to lead us in the Torah service, beginning on page 139.
El kamocha va'elohim Adonai ben kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim umemshaltecha bechol dor v'adon Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam ba'er Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yitavech et amo Shalom Aharachamim Hetiv Avirtzoncha Et Zion Tivne Chomot Yerushalayim Tivne Chomot Yerushalayim Kivecha levaratach ויהי בצהריים ויאמר משה קום אדוני ויחוסו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי בציון תצא תורה כי בציון תצא תורה ונבחר אדוני מירושלים ברוך שנתן תורה ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו.
Ruler of the universe, praise be your name and your sovereignty. May you desire your people Israel forever, and may your liberating power be revealed to them in your sanctuary. Extend to us the goodness of your light, and with compassion accept our prayers. May it be your will to grant us long life and well-being. May we be counted among the righteous, and in your compassion protect us, our families, and all the people of Israel. You are the one who nourishes and sustains all life. You rule over all. You have dominion over rulers, for true sovereignty is yours.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai iti, Onero mema Shemo Yachdav, Lecha
Either via Zoom or at night.
Always.
What's his cottage?
Yeah,
Double check for him.
Every night via Zoom, yes.
Okay.
So as Tevye would say, have I got a parsha for you? Well, that wasn't Tevye, it was the matchmaker, but you know. So we are reading today from Parshat Emor. We turn to page 717, and we find ourselves opening with laws specifically for the Kohanim. But even though they are specific for the Kohanim, the rest of us still learn something, because we learn about our relationships and the ones who are closest to us. Well, then, from there, we get a little more complicated, and we get some things that are challenging to us in the modern age of saying that a priest, a Kohen, who is not a perfect specimen of masculinity, unblemished from top to bottom of heart and soul and also of body, if they had any issue, they could not serve as a Kohen, they could not serve as this intermediary. So you would not be surprised to see that the rabbis have a problem with that, right? The rabbis say, God is close to whom? As it says in the Psalms, to the brokenhearted. That those who are, that are going through things are often in the place where they can find God more than the ones where everything's great. And so the rabbis, they've got some trouble with this. But, obviously they're not going to just erase the Torah, so they have to learn something from it. And so we find all sorts of different ideas, but ultimately I think what they're trying to say is that we should be striving to be our best selves, right? What is tshuva? When we talk before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, but really the whole year round, what is tshuva? But return. Returning not to an imperfect version of ourselves, but returning to the best that we possibly can be. When we try to find a spouse, we try to find someone who lifts us up and tells us when we're doing something stupid. She's pretty good at it. That we find the one who our soul desires and the one who pushes us to return to who we should be, whether or not we're there yet. And so that's one thing we might find from this parsha. We'll get to the calendar and all those other things too, but we'll start page 717, chapter 21 of the book of Leviticus. Amen.
אפרים הרשל בן צבי לעלייה הראשונה, ברוך שתן תורך למו ישראל, בקדושתו. ואתם הרים לנו רכב, חגוכם היום.
Baruch Adonai Amorah.
ברוך אני ברחם בועד.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natzan lanu et Torto. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Emor el Kohanim b'nei Aharon, v'marta aleihem, l'nefesh lo yitama be'amav, ki im lishero hakarov elav, limo ulaviv, v'livno ulvito ulaviv, v'la alchoto haptula krova elav, asher lo haita leish, la yitama. Lo yitama ba'al ba'amav lehechalo
Lo yikrechu korcha v'rosham, ufa'ad zekanam lo yigalechu, uvivsaram lo yishatu sarated. Kiddushim yiyu le'Elohehem, v'lo yichalalu shem Elohehem. Ki Edish Adonai lechem Elohehem, hem makrivim v'hayu kodesh. Isha zona v'chalala lo yikachu, v'isha grusha meisha lo yikachu, ki kadosh hu le'Elohav. V'kidashto ki et lechem Elohecha hu makriv, kadosh yelach ki kadosh ani Adonai mekadeshchem. Uvad ish kohen ki techel liznot, et avia hi mechalale ba'esh tisarev. HaKohen hagadol me'achav, asher yitzak arosho shemen hamishcha umilei et yado lilbosh et habgadim. Et rosho lo yifra, uvgadav lo yifrom. V'al konasha meit lo yavo, laviv ulimo lo yitma. Umin hamikdash lo yitzei, v'lo yechalel et mikdash Elohav. Ki nezer shemen mishchad Elohav. Allah ani Adonai, Behu isha bivtulaha yikach, Amana ugrusha v'chalazona et eila lo yikach, Ki im betula me'amav yikach isha, Lo ychalel zaro be'amav, Ki ani Adonai mekasho.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam adat Eloheinu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. We'll pause for Misha Berach for those who are ill in the community, and I'm going to make an announcement. You may have noticed that our Misha Berach list has gotten a little bit long. So here's my thought. On Shavuot, I'm starting over. If you would like a name to be on the Misha Berach list, let us know. But we're going to start with a new list on Shavuot. It doesn't mean you have to take somebody off. It just means we should make sure they should be on there. Okay? I'll remind you between now and Shavuos. Misha Berach, Avotenu Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah, Yivarech v'Yarpet HaCholim, Amach Hirsch, Anthony de Cesar, Audrey Kappelman, Avram ben Shai v'Chava, Avigdor Yaakov ben Eliyahu, Eitel, Barbara Salam, Mordechai v'Chendel, Baral ben Feivel v'Rezel, Baral Levi ben Poloma, Plima Maya Batana, Baracha v'Elon v'Rachel, Brana bet v'Rachayim b'El Moshe, Levi v'Tema, Chaim Gershom ben Nechama Leba, Chana Ruth Chana Tzipora, Bat Moshe v'Chada Malka, Chaya Sarah ben Avarivka Beila, Chaya Tekva b'Baal Shana, Chasha Freda bat Chaim b'Shoshana, Claire Weinstein, Devin ben Reuven, Dennis Warab, Diane Baum, David ben Yosef Alevi, Elian Talim ben Halevin, Eliezer ben Tachon, Elchanan, Eliezer Tzvi ben Tzvi, Mordechai Cohen v'Rachel, Akalea bat Tzvi v'Yafa, Esther Blacksbury, Esther Paloma, Eva Seder, Etachava bat Hanan Levi, Fredel Nechama bat Perel Malka, Gola Rivka bat Perel Sanda, Gordon Kingston, Hannah bat Devorah, Hannah bat Frankel, Hannah Fesher bat Masha, Hannah Mechela bat Yochev, Hannah bat Tfira Chavi Solomon, Hayazalda bat Chana Ita, Hersha ben Moshe, Yitzhak ben Lima Maya v'Shmuel, Janet Holtzman, Judy Banz, Carl Springer, Kim Weinstein, Lev ben Yaakov, Larry White, Liba bat Zev Dova Levi v'Chanha, Linda Hamburg, Lisa Walchuk says, Malina Cantor, Marilyn Goldberg, Marilyn Whitner, Marianne May, Meredith, and Jake Chaplin, Miriam Bade Victor Chalevi v'Chava, Miriam Freda Batzara, Miriam Amara bet David Tzvi, Monesh ben Yosef, Mordechai Gimel ben Lazar David, Moshe ben Yamin Nisamanya bet Lekov Avelvel, Nifashon Yishalmi, Pam Hayden Penchas ben Ruvina Levi, Rachel bat Arya Leba Cohen v'Rivka, Rachel bat Sarah, Razal bat Yisrael, Rina Leba bat Chaya, Rivka b'Chaim v'Chaya, Rivka Rachel, Rivka bat Mela Resha, Rivka Miriam bat Rav Yehuda Levi v'Hayatzeya, Robert Zampin has been Zaman v'Shreik, Sarah bat Tzipora, Sarah Rivka b'Golda v'Yosef HaKayin, Sarah Yochavet bat Rivka, Sharon Koenig, Shara Chaya bat Betela Badina, Shoshana Ruth bat Sarah, Shalom B'Rabban Yehudit Leah, Stacy Greenberg, Stephanie Green, Van Flora, Yaakov Nacham ben Pesach, Yaakov Dover, Yehudit Sheka, Yehuda ben Avraham, Nishaya Mordechai ben Zev, Yitzhak Raphael ben Batya, Yosef Alevi Halevi bat Masha, Evan Oilet, Zev ben Shlomo ve'et. הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלאכם עליכם, להחזיקם ופואתם, וישלח להם מהרה רפואה שלמה מן השמיים, רפואת הנפש, רפואת הגוף, בתוך שאר החולים, והזה כדי העוסקים בצרכיכם, שבתי מזכרו וקרבו עליו, וחשת בזמן קריב, ונאמר, Amen. We continue with the second aliyah in these laws of the Kohanim.
Secondly, as on page 719, chapter 21, verse 16. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Amen.
Amen. Daber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el Aharon lemor. Ish mizaracha ledorotam. Asher yavomum lo yakriv. Yikrav hakriv lachem Elohav. Ki cholish. Asher vomum lo yikrav. Ish ivero fiseach o charum o sarua o ish asher yavo shever ragel o shever yad o gibein o dak o tevalul be'eno o garav o yalafed o meroach ashech kol ish asher bomum mizera Aharon hagohen Lo yigash l'hakriv et ishay Adonai, mum bo eit lechem Elohav, lo yigash l'hakriv. Lechem Elohav mikadshe hakadashim, min hakadashim yochal, yochel. Achel aparo chet lo yavo, vel mizbeach lo yigash, ki mum bo. V'lo yechalel et mikdashi shai ki ani Adonai mikadsham. V'adber Moshe al Haran ve'al banav kol bnei Yisrael. V'adber Adonai al Moshe lemor. V'adber al Haran ve'al banav. V'nezru mikadshei bnei Yisrael. V'lo yechalu et shem kodeshi. Asher hey makdishim li ani Adonai emor alehem l'dorotechem kol ish asher yikrav mikol zarachem el hakadashim asher yakdishu b'nei Yisrael la'Adonai v'tumato alav Nichurta hanefesh hahi milfanai ani Adonai Ish mizera Aharon Vehud sarua ozav Bakodashim lo yochal ad asher yidhar Lahanogeh bechol tamei nefesh O ish asher tetzei mimenu shiach zara O ish asher yiga bechol sheretz asher yitmalo O v'adam asher yitmalo l'chol tumato nefesh asher tigavo v'tama ad ha'arev v'lo yochal min hakodashim ki imrachatz b'saro b'mayim uva hashemesh v'taher v'achar yochal min hakodashim ki lachmohu Nevela utrefa lo yochal letamava ani Adonai v'shamru et mishmarti v'leisu alav ched umei tuvo ki yechaluhu ani Adonai mekadsham v'chol zar lo yochal kodesh toshav kohen V'sachir lo yochal kodesh v'chohen ki nefesh kinyan kaspo hu yochal bo Vilid beito hem yochlu belachmo. Uvat kohen ki tiel ishar he bitrumat hakodashim lo tochel. Uvat kohen ki tiel almana ugrusha. Uvat kohen ki tiel almana ugrusha. V'zera ein la yeshava el beit aviha kineraha milechem avicha tochel v'chol zar lo yochal bo v'ish ki yochal kodesh bishgaga v'yasav chamishito alav v'natan lachohen et hakodesh V'lo yechalu et kodshei b'nei Yisrael et asher yarimu la'Adonai. V'hisiyu otam avon ashma bochlam et kodshehem ki ani Adonai mekadsham.
Is found on page 722, chapter 22, verse 17. Baruch Rabbanacham, Amen. Amen.
Amen. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el Aharon ve'el banav, ve'el kol b'nei Yisrael, v'amarta aleihem, ish ish mibeit Yisrael, umin hager b'Yisrael, asher yakriv korbano l'chol nidrehem l'chol nidvotam, asher yakrivu l'Adonai le'olah, L'rtzonchem, tamim zachar, babakar, baksavim uvayizim, kol asher bomum lo takrivu, ki lo l'ratzon yiyeh lachem, ve'ish ki akriv zavach shlamim l'Adonai, l'falei neder olin dava, babakar ovatom, tamim yiyeh l'ratzon, Komum lo yavo, averet o shavur o charutz o yavelet o garav o yalafet lo takrivu ela la Adonai bishe lo titnu mehem al hamizbeach la Adonai bishor vases ara v'kalut v'davat aseh oto Uneder lo yeratzeh, uma'uch v'chatut, v'natuk v'charut, lo takrivu la'Adonai, u've'ertzechem lo tasu. Umiyad b'nechar lo takrivu, et lachem Elohechem mikol eleh, ki mashkatam bahem umbam, lo yeratzu lachem. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor, shor, o chasev oez ki yivaled, v'haya shivat yamim tachat imo, umiyom hashmini v'hala, yiratzeh, v'korban ishel Adonai, v'shor oseh, oto vet beno, lo tishchatu b'yom echad. V'chi tizbechu, zavach toda l'Adonai, l'rtzonchem tizbachu. Bayom hahu yachel, lo titiru mimenu ad boker, ani Adonai. Ushmartem mitzvotai v'asitem otam, ani Adonai. ולא תחללו את שם קודשי ונקדשתי בתוך בני ישראל. אני אדוני מקדישכם, המוציא אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני.
Bela bat Henach V'malka Leah HaRevi'it, fourth Aliyah, is found on page 724, chapter 23, verse 1.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMorach. Baruch Adonai HaMorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. V'daber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem, Mordei Adonai, asher tigru otam mikrei kodesh, Eloheim oadai, sheshet yamim taseh melacha, v'yom hashvi, Shabbat Shabbaton mikra kodesh, kol melacha lo ta'asu, Shabbat hi l'Adonai b'chol moshvotechem, Ele mordei Adonai mikrei kodesh, asher tikru otam b'moadam, B'chodesh harishon, b'arba'asar l'chodesh ben ha'arba'im, Pesach l'Adonai, ובחמישה עשר יום לחודש הזה, חג המצות לאדוני, 7 ימים מצות תאכלו. ביום הראשון מקרא קודש יהיה לכם, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו. והקרבתם אישה לאדוני 7 ימים, ביום השביעי מקרא קודש, כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו. ודבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם, כי תבואו אל הארץ, אשר אני נותן לכם, וקצרתם את קצירה, והבאתם את עומר, ראשי קצרכם על הכהן, והניף את העומר, לפני אדוני לרצונכם, ממחרת השבת יניפנו הכהן. ועשיתם ביום הניפכם את העומר, כבש תמים בשנתו, לעולה לאדוני. ומנחתו 2 עשרונים, סולת בלולב השמן, אישה לאדוני ריח ניחוח, ונזקו יין רביעית ההין. לכם בחליב הכרמל לא תאכלו, עד עצם היום הזה, עד הביאכם את קורבן אלוהיכם, חוקת עולם לדורותיכם בכל מושבותיכם. וספרתם לכם ממחרת השבת, מיום הביאכם את עומר התנופה, 7 שבתות תמימות תהיינה, עד ממחרת השבת השביעית, תספרו 50 יום, והקרבתם מנחה חדשה לאדוני. במושבותיכם תביאו לחם תנופה, 2 עשרונים סולת תהיינה, חמץ תאפנה, ביקורים לאדוני. והקרבתם על הלחם 7 כבשים תמימים בני שנה, ופר בן בקר 1 ואלים 2, יהיו עולה לאדוני, ומנחתם ונזקיהם, אישי ריח ניחוח לאדוני. ועשיתם סיר עזים 1 לחטאת, ו2 כבשים בני שנה לזבח שלמים. והניף הכהן אותם על לחם הביקורים תנופה לפני אדוני, al shnei chevasim, kodesh yu ladonoi lakohen. Ukratem b'etzem hayom hazeh, mikra kodesh yeh lachem, umlechet avodah lo ta'asu, chukad olam, b'chol moshvotechem l'dorotechem, ובקוצרכם מקציר ארצכם, לא תכלה פאצתך בקוצרך, ולקט קצרך לא תלקט, לעני ולגר תעזוב אותם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yamod, or Ben Gil, B'Aliyah Chimishit, fifth Eliezer on page 727, chapter 23, verse 23.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai
אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Vaydaber Adonai al Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael lemor, b'chodesh hashvi'i b'echad lachodesh, yeh lachem Shabbaton, zichron trua mikra kodesh, kol melechet avodah lo ta'asu, v'hikraftem ishel Adonai. Vaydaber Adonai al Moshe lemor, ach b'asor lachodesh hashvi'i hazeh, Yom HaKippurim hu mikra kodesh yeh lachem v'initem et nafshotechem v'hikraftem ishel Adonai v'chol melacha lo ta'asu be'etzem hayom hazeh ki Yom Kippurim hu lechaper alechem lefnei Adonai Elohechem ki chol hanefesh asher le'teuneh be'etzem hayom hazeh v'nechrita me'yameha v'chol hanefesh asher ta'aseh chol melacha be'etzem hayom hazeh ועבדתי את הנפש ההיא מקרב עמה. כל מלאכה לא תעשו, חוקת עולם לדורותיכם בכל מושבותיכם. שבת שבתון הוא לכם, ועיניתם את נפשותיכם. בתשעה לחודש בערב, מערב עד ערב, תשבתו שבתכם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yeshua. You stay there.
Meir Ben Zev, Leah Shishit, sixth Eliezer on page 729, chapter 23, verse 33.
Before we read the sixth Aliyah, I've been looking a little bit into the words of the Abarbanel recently, and he has an interesting insight about this sacred calendar, noting that the number 7 in Jewish tradition is something we read about a lot. There are 7 days of creation, 7 days of the week, and we are right now in the midst of this journey from Pesach to Shavuot of 7 weeks of 7 days. 7 is a number of completion. And we're about to read about Sukkot. Sukkot is also 7 days, with Shmini Atzeret being this extra special day. And he says, lived a little bit different time, that many people lived for 7 decades. And 7 was the complete for most people. But Sukkot had this extra, this Shmini Atzeret, this 8th day, and that some are given the merit of living an 8th decade. And the days for that, from Tehillim, the days of our years among them are 70, and if with mighty 80 years. That our physical celebration on the 8th day on Shmini Atzeret is a recognition of that accomplishment. And he then goes on to think about the 4 species, the etrog, the lulav, the hadas, the arava, that we hold together on Sukkot, and notes all of the different pieces of it, that we need to have joy with them. that when we hold on Sukkot, the four species together, we need to have the pleasure and delight of the physical world, but we need the Torah with it to have that complete sense of well-being. That you can't have the one with the other. That if we have unbridled joy without recognizing Torah, then we have lost something great. And throughout our lives, we need to have the joy of living, but if we want that 8th decade, or 9th, or 10th, or 11th, or 12th, maybe to live to be Ad Me'av Yasrim, to live like Moshe, then we need to have the Torah as a part of that as well. So, a lesson from Barbara now.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch HaMorach Le'Moed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher b'chabanu mikol ha'amim v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Daber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber el Bnei Yisrael lemor. ב-15 יום לחודש השביעי הזה חג הסוכות 7 ימים לאדוני ביום הראשון מקרא קודש כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו 7 ימים תקריבו אישה לאדוני ביום השמיני מקרא קודש יהיה לכם והקרבתם אישה לאדוני עצרת היא ומלאכת עבודה לא תעשו אלה מורדי אדוני אשר תקראו אותם מקראי קודש להקריב אישה לאדוני עולה ומנחה זבח ונסכים דבר יום ביומו מלבד שבתות אדוני ומלבד מתנותיכם, ומלבד כל נדריכם, ומלבד כל נדבותיכם, אשר תיתנו לאדוני. ב-15 יום לחודש השביעי, באספכם את תבואות הארץ, תחוגו את חג אדוני 7 ימים, ביום הראשון שבתון, וביום השמיני שבתון, לקחתם לכם ביום הראשון, פרי עץ הדר כפות תמרים, בנף עץ אבות וערבי נחל, ושמחתם לפני אדוני אלוהיכם 7 ימים. וחגותם אותו חג לאדוני 7 ימים בשנה. חוקת עולם לדורותיכם, בחודש השביעי תחוגו אותו. בסוכות תשבו 7 ימים, כל אזרח בישראל ישבו בסוכות. למען ידעו דורותיכם, כי בסוכות הושבתי את בני ישראל, והוציאי אותם מארץ מצרים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. ודבר משה מועדי אדוני אל בני ישראל.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Page 731, chapter 24, verse 1.
Amen. ודבר אדוני אל משה לאמור, צב את בני ישראל, יקחו אליך שמן זית זך חתית למאור, Laha'alot ner tamid. Michutz l'frokat haidut b'yohel moed. Yaroch oto aharon me'erev ad boker lifnei Adonai tamid. Ukat olam l'dorotechem. Al hamnarahat hora yaroch et hanerot lifnei Adonai tamid. Lakachta solet vafita ota shtem esrei chalot. Shnei esronim yiyeh hachala ha'echad. Besamta otam shtaim ma'arachot sheish ha'ma'arachad al hashulchan hatahor lifnei Adonai. V'natata al hamarachet levona zakah. V'ayta lalachem le'azkara yishel la'adonai. B'yom HaShabbat yarchenu lifnei Adonai tamid. Me'eit b'nei Yisrael brit olam. V'ayta le'aharon ulvanav va'achaluhu b'makom kadosh. Ki kodesh koshim hulo Meshe Adonai chok olam. Vayetze ben isha Yisraelit vehu ben ish mitzri betoch bnei Yisrael. Vayinatzu b'machane ben ha-Yisraelit ve'ish ha-Yisraeli. Vayikov ben ha-isha ha-Yisraelit et Hashem Vayikalel, vayaviu oto el Moshe, b'shem imo Shlomit bat Ivri lematedan. Vayinichuhu b'mishmar lifrosh lahem al pi Adonai. V'adaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, hotzei mikalel, el mechutz lamachane, v'samchu chol hashomim. Et yedehem al rosho, ragbu oto kol ha'edah. V'bnei Yisrael tedaber lemor, ish yikalel Eloha v'nasa chato. V'nokeif shem Adonai mot yumad, ragom yirgemu bo kol ha'edah. Kager kazrach, v'nokvo shem yumad. Bish ki yakeh kol nefesh adam mot yumad. Umakeh nefesh behema yishamena nefesh tachat nefesh. Bish ki yitain mum bamito. Kasher asa ken yasalo. Shever tachat shever, ayin tachat ayin, shein tachat shein. Kasher yitain mum ba'adam ken yinatain bo. Umakei vehema yeshalmana, umakei adam yumad. Mishpat echad yeh lachem, kager kazrach yeh, ki ani Adonai Elohechem. V'adaber Moshe el ben Israel, vayotziu et hamikalel. El mechutz lamachane vayirgemu oto aven ubnei Yisrael asu kasher Sivanoi et Moshe.
Amen.
Mi sheberach avatever mitzavakov sir kavrach aliyah yibrach kol hakru mashar alu hayam lechon makom l'torah v'chashabat uvis kazeh shberchu yivrachatam v'mishbechatam v'shach v'chavat tzachah b'chom aseidehem im kol shalchehem v'nomar
Amen.
Yigadav yikadash shemei rabba.
Amen.
Yamad divrach yirute v'yamlich malchute.
Echayechon v'yamechon uchayet b'chol beit Yisrael. Bagala bagala ubizman karib.
V'meru v'tramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yidaleh v'yidhalal shmei dekutshah
Berichum.
Lamin kol bechata v'shirata
Tush bechata v'nechemata namiran me'oha.
Mimeru
Amen. So our parsha has been talking, in many different ways about education, about the things that we need to know in different parts of our lives, and especially with all the holidays in the calendar there, how do we transmit those values to the next generation? And all of these things come again and again and again. And one of the pieces that we see more than once in our Torah is the idea of midah keneged midah, that what comes around, that their actions have consequences. And one of those is the principle that is sometimes called in Latin lex talionis, the eye for the eye. But the rabbis were very, very clear in our tradition. This was never, ever, ever something we taken literally. It's not that if someone has a dispute and knocks out an eye that you go and take out their eye. The rabbis, the lawyers, and when we get to Parshat Mishpatim, that was something that was, discussed again there, this is a financial situation. That there are multiple layers of damages, of compensatory damages, of punitive damages, of loss of work damages, and if you study the Bavas in the Gemara, you can go all into all the different layers of punishments, financial and such. But I want to be very, very, very clear. While you may read those words, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that is not ever what the Jewish tradition has practiced. So don't go try it. Page 733.
Talmud, Leah Galabat, Yeshua Kohen, Amaftir Elias on 733, chapter 24, verse 21.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMbarach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMbarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bacha Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Umakei behema yishalmana. Umakei adam yimat. Mishpat echad yeh lachem. Kager kazrach yeh. Ki ani Adonai Elohechem. V'daber Moshe el bnei Israel. Vayitziu et hamikalel el michutz l'machaneh. Vayirgemu oto aven uvnei Israel asu kasher tziva Adonai et Moshe.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein ha'Torah.
Amen. Please rise and lift and bind the sacred Torah.
V'zot ha'Torah asher saf Moshe b'fnei bnei Yisrael ki Adonai me'ad Moshe. Torah, 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 Torah. Just very briefly. Are you doing anything? Torah, 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 Tzivanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tzivanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tzivanu Moshe. Okay. You may be seated. The Haftarah is found on page 735. We are in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 44. Now, Ezekiel is living in the time of the exile after the loss of the first temple, and he's telling us this vision of what's going to happen with the restoration in the Bayit Hasheni, in the second temple. And what he's doing, though, as he's sharing the reminder to the Kohanim or the priests of what they have to do, he's actually limiting. He's saying, not all the priests are eligible anymore. A lot of these Levites, sorry, you're out. A lot of you Kohanim, sorry, out of here. And limits only to the Zadokite priests, who he felt were the ones who maintain the service of God. Although we later on have an issue, because when the Hashmonim, the Maccabees, come along, they switch things around and cause some more trouble. So we've got a little time before Hanukkah to argue about them. But it's interesting here, what is Ezekiel doing in conversation with God, but looking at the moment in time and saying, hang on, the rules that were there didn't entirely serve us in this moment. So how do we maintain the faith and with the mitzvot while adapting to that moment in time? It's an interesting paradigm that we, I think, as all Jews, still try to figure out to this moment. So page 735, and the blessings are in the Siddur.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'Yiveh hamet b'tzedek. HaKohanim halvim b'nei tzadok asher shamru et mishmeret mikdashi b'to'ot b'nei Yisrael me'alai hema yikravu elai l'sharteni v'amdu lefanai lahakriv li chelev adam Ne'um Adonai Elohim hema yiva'u el mikdashi v'hema yikravu el shulchani l'sharteni v'shamru et mishmarti v'haya b'vo'am el sha'arei hechatzer hapnimit bigdei fishtim Yilbashu v'lo ya'aleh alehem tzemer b'shartam b'sha'arei hechatzer hapnimit v'avaita pa'arei fishtim yiyu al rosham u'michnasei fishtim yiyu al matnehem Lo yachkaru bayatza uvtzetam el hechatzer hachitzona el hechatzer hachitzona el ha'am yifshatu et bigdehem asher hema mishartim bam V'henichu otam b'lishchot hakodesh v'lavshu b'gadim acherim v'lo yikadshu et ha'am b'vigdehem v'rosham lo yigalechu ufera lo yishalechu kasom yichsemu et Rashehem v'yayin lo yishtu kol kohen v'voam el hechatzer hapnimit v'almana u'grusha lo yikhu lahem lenashim ki im betulot mizera beit Yisrael v'almana Asher tiyeh almana mikohen yikahu v'et ami yoru ben kodesh lechol uvein tame l'tohar yodi'un, v'al riv hema ya'amdu l'mishpat, b'mishpatai yishbatuhu, v'et toratai, v'et chukotai, b'chol ma'odai yishmoru, v'et shabtotai yikadeshu, v'el meid adam lo yavo l'tama, ki im la'av, ul'eim, ul'vein, ulvat la'ach, ul'achot, asher lo hayta la'ish yitama'u, v'acharei taharato, shivat yamim yisperu lo, uvyom bo'o el hakodesh el hechatzer hapnimit l'sharet b'kodesh yakriv chatato ne'um Adonai Elohim v'hayta lahem l'nachala ani nachalatam v'ahuzah lo titnu lahem b'Yisrael ani achuzatam hamincha v'hachatat v'ha'asham hema yochlum v'chol herem b'Yisrael lahem yiyeh v'reshit kol b'kurei kol v'chol terumat kol mikol terumotechem lakohanim yeyeh bereshit ari sotechem titnu lakohen lahoniach baracha el beitecha kol nevela utrefa min ha'of umi habhema lo yochlu hakohanim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam tzur kol ha'olamim tzadik b'kol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'amer v'yoseh hamdaber kayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek Ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha v'davar echad mitvarecha achar lo yoshuv rekam ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'ne'eman v'chal devarav rachem al tzion ki hi beit chayenu v'laluvat nefesh toshia b'mheira v'yameinu baruch atah Adonai mesameach Zion b'vanecha samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu b'Eliyahu hanavi abdecha uv'malchut beit David meshichecha b'mheira yavo yevagel libenu al kisolo yeshev zor v'lo yenhalu od acherim et kavodo ki v'shem kadshecha nishbata lo shalo yichbe neira li'olam va'ed baruch atah Adonai magen David al haTorah v'al havodah v'al hanbi'im v'al yom haShabbat hazeh Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu l'kedusha v'limnucha l'chavod u'tifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yitbarach shemcha b'fi kol chai tamid li'olam va'ed baruch atah Adonai Adonai mekadesh haShabbat
Amen. Yasher koach. We'll continue with the blessings for the community and then our country on 148.
יקום פורקן מן שמיה. הקדוש ברוך הוא ישלם סגרם ויסיר מהם כל מחלה וירפא לכל גופם ויסלח לכל עוונם וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה עם כל ישראל אחיהם ונאמר אמן.
Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise just and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah, that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony to banish hatred and bigotry and to safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom, helping them to fulfill the vision of your prophet. Nation shall not lift sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore, and let us say amen.
Okay. All right.
Yeshakona? Here you go. And we'll continue with the prayer for the state of Israel, page 149.
Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Zor Yisrael v'goalo. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Zor Yisrael v'goalo. Baruch, Baruch, et Medinat Yisrael, Reshit Tzmichat Gulatenu, Hagen Aleha, Be'evad Chasecha, Ufros Aleha, Sukkot Shlomecha. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Zor Yisrael v'goalo. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Zor Yisrael v'goalo. Ushlach orcha v'amitecha l'rasheha sareha v'yotatzeha v'yotzeha v'takneim b'yetza tova milfanecha v'taknei b'yetza tova milfanecha. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Zor Yisrael v'go'alo. Avinu, Avinu, Shebashamayim, Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo. Chazek, chazek, yazek, chazek, et yedei b'knetz kadshenu, v'hanchilem Eloheinu, Yeshua, Yeshua, v'atet nitzachon tiatreim, v'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'simchat olam yoshvecha, v'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'samchat olam yoshvecha, v'nomar, v'nomar, amen.
And now, maybe seated, we'll call Aaron up to do Ashrei, page 151.
Ashrei Ashrei Vetecha Od Yehalucha Salam.
Hashem shekachalo, Ashrei Shanai Eloham.
Tehila leDavid Aramimcha Elohai HaMelech V'avarcha Shimcha leOlam Va'ed.
Uliam avreka v'lo shimcha le'olam v'hen.
Gadol Adonai Hulal Me'od V'ligdul Adol Ein Cheker.
Tolo shema ma'asecha, o kvuratcha yedav kidum.
Hadar Kevod Hodecha V'divrei Nifleotecha Asicha.
Vezuz nortzecha yomeru, uglatcha saprena.
Zecher Avtucha Yabiu V'tzid Kadecha Yeranenu.
Hanun v'rachum Adonai, erach apayim ugdul chased.
Tov Adonai Lakol V'rachamav Al Kol Ma'asav.
Yaduchanai kol ma'asecha, v'chasitecha yevarhucha.
Kevod Malchutcha Yomeru Ukvuratacha Yedaberu.
V'hodiya le'nei agvoratav, ukvor adar malchuto.
Malchutcha Malchut Kol Olamim Memshaltecha Bechol Dor Vador.
Tumech Adonai lechol hanoflim, v'zokef lekol hakfufim.
Einei Kol Elecha Yesaberu V'atanoten Lahem Et Achlam Be'ito.
פותח את ידיך ומצביע לכל הרצון.
Tzadik Adonai Bechol Derachav V'chasid Bechol Ma'asav.
קרוב אדוני להוקרב לכל אשר יקראו ויאמן.
Ratzon Yireyav Ya'aseh Ve'et Shavatam Yishma V'yoshiem.
שומר אדוני כל אהביו ואת קושרים ישמיד.
Tehilat Adonai Yedaber Pi V'varech Kol Basar Shem Kadsho Le'olam Va'ed.
ואנחנו נברך גם מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah. We rise to return the Torah to the Ark, page 153.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. על הארץ ושמיים, וירם כי לקחתו נתתי לכם תורתי אל תעזבו את חיילים למחזיקים בה ותוכניה מאושר
So you may be seated. Today, in honor of Educator Shabbat, or Parshat Emor, we have two special guests, thanks to our P2G program and the Federation of Florida's Gulf Coast. So Rotem and Or have been on a journey the last few days, and they continue their journey here with us today. They've been all across the county, going from north to south, and I'm sure you can talk to Maxine and find out where they'll be tomorrow if you want to hear even more. So Rotem will be one of our speakers. She's been involved, as a shlicha, and part of the Jewish agency, served in the military. And here's the thing I'm going to mention is that she was one of the people that went, the Israeli staff members to serve at Camp Ramah in Wisconsin. So while she didn't go to Ramah Darom, we will give her an excuse for that, but we're glad you went to Camp Ramah. And Or has a MA in Jewish education, also a deputy chief engineer in the Navy Special Forces at one point. Now, I don't really understand what it means to be a deal flow associate in the business world, but I assume he knows something about business as well as education. And we're glad to have them here this morning to share a little bit of their journeys and Jewish education Baaretz. So come on down.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you for the warm welcoming. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, Maxine and Linda, for everything that you did around to make us, to get us here. As was mentioned, we are a part of yeah, it's fine. We are a part of a mishlachat that came from Israel. We were allocated here to Florida to visit the communities. It's called Doorstep to Israel. And the purpose of this program was essentially after COVID, and because we just had the Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, and Yom HaAtzmaut, to kind of bring Israel to the communities. Today it's Shabbat, so we're less about the programming, but throughout we do a lot of work of education with the younger crowd, with the older crowd, and as was mentioned, we started at Naples and we will reach to Tampa. We're very excited to be here. I think that one of the purposes of our program is truly to bridge the gap between Israel and the U.S. Jewry. Israel understands the importance of strong Jewish communities here in the States, and we are here to kind of both learn from you and share some of our insights with you, and also strengthen the relationship. We believe that in order to have a strong Israel, we need to have a strong American Jewry, and vice versa. And just a bit about myself. In my previous position, before I was a deal flow manager, yeah, we didn't know how to call my title, so we just wrote something on the agreement, but never mind. Before that, I was the director of Nova Southeastern Hillel in the Palm Beaches, working with Adam Colette, if some may know. And my focus was both engaging the younger student Jewish community, bridging the gap with the non-Jewish community also in so many ways in order to mitigate all the BDS movement that was rising in Southeast Florida, and also in order to increase the security sense of our Jewish community and Jewish student body. Thankfully, after a long 3 terms, they did not only thanks to our work in my time, but we did manage to actually ban the BDS movement in a number of schools in South Florida, and that surely changed the narrative of the Jewish students there. Throughout, I did earn my MA of Jewish Education as I was planning on bursting into a Jewish professional career, but then a quick shift in my life made me return back to Israel, and therefore I found myself in the world of investment, 180 degrees from what we are speaking about today. Rotem is an amazing colleague of mine from Camp Rama. I unfortunately did not have the chance to go on a camp. And she has also a great story, and she was actually involved with, I wouldn't ruin it for you, so with that.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you. I gotta say before I start, you have a beautiful synagogue, and when I sat there next to Linda, I was watching and looking at the Jerusalem stone, and it reminded me of home because I grew up in Jerusalem. So a little bit about myself. I'm 25 years old. I grew up in Jerusalem. I went to the Masorti High School. It's a bit of conservative high school in Jerusalem, so I know a little bit all the melodies and the praying. But I must say I haven't done it in a while, so it's good to be back. I went to the Israeli Scouts. I was a counselor for many years. And before I started my army service, I went to a gap year, a leadership academy where I got to travel Israel, get to know all the aspects, all the parts of the society there. And then I started my military service where I served as a commander and an officer for Olim Chadashim, people who wanted to come and serve the army without even having the basic Hebrew to serve and get a real job in the army. So they came to basic training and Hebrew course that I ran, and it was an amazing, I think it shaped the identity and the things that I do today, because I kind of realized how big our world is and how many type of people that stays all over the world and want to come and serve Israel and have a piece of it in their hearts, in their story. And it's kind of amazing when you think about it. And also, it started my journey with the Jewish Agency. Right after I got released from the army, I went to Ramah, Wisconsin as a camp counselor. I came back for a few summers. I ran the Mishlachat there, and I started working in Jaffe to find the next summer camp shlichim, not just for Ramah, Wisconsin, for all the Ramah camps and more camps around the U.S. And then I went to a long-term shlichut in Los Angeles when I ran the Israeli Scouts there, and I worked with the former Israelis community and the Jewish American community there. And, thinking about today's parsha that we just read, and everyone, yashar koach for all the great things that you did today. There were so many strict rules about this parsha, and we hear about so many things that we need to do and we can't do, and what if we do it, what will happen to us. And I think when I read it and I take it to my personal world, I think about maybe karma. When you go after good things and you chase the right things and you want to educate people and you want to meet people and learn from them and you want to give something from you to the world, good things will happen to you and good things will come find you eventually. And I think this journey that we just went to, it came to us as a surprise. One day you get a phone call, hey, do you want to go for 2 weeks to Florida and just share some of your insights and story for the Jewish communities there? And okay, yeah, let me just clear my schedule. So when I started that journey, I didn't know what kind of impact it will do for my world, for my personal identity and for the rest of the people that I got to meet. So, we're very lucky to be here today and to meet you all and meet all those amazing people who just want to have part of Israel in their normal lives and have that once in a while and love that country so much and want to have a community and have a supporting family that they're not just your real family. It's the family that you choose. And thank you so much for teaching us so much just from being here. Thank you.
Don't fall down. So, and I just want to, now, only so many people can sit at a table with them, but maybe we'll put them at different tables so you can have an opportunity to talk and hear a little bit more. And one of the things I find so powerful about having Israelis in the community is it really is a mutual conversation, because we learn about what is life akshav, right now in Israel, and they see that there is Yiddishkeit, that there is a community of people that care, that have love for Israel all over the world. And it's not just in little pockets, but last night, I shared the Pirkei Avot, the piece that said, okay, we need to, a student should go to be in a community where there are lots of Jews. And I said, I had a problem with that. Because I said it's really important for there to be teachers and students everywhere. That, God willing, many of us one day will find our way to make Aliyah, but that's not for everybody. And we need to have Jewish life everywhere. We need a strong diaspora to have a strong Israel, and a strong Israel to have a strong diaspora. So, God willing, we'll all grow in our Torah, and grow in our learning, and grow in our connection, so that we remember that Kol Yisrael Arvim Zeh B'Zeh, that all Israel looks out one for another. Now, we'll continue our davening, continue our prayers with the Musaf. We rise on page 155 of the Chatzi Kaddish, and then we'll begin together with the Hecha Kedusha, the first two pages, 156b and 157, and then continue silently the rest of the special offerings for Shabbat. Amen.
Bagalav is Makari, Vimro, Amen. Yesh Merava Mevarach, Leolam Me'almaya, Yitbarach, Vishtabach, Vitpavitra Vinase, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalar, Shmerigo de Shabriko, La Migobigata Shirata, Tushbegata Venegamata, Damina Mealma, Vimro, Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, נתן להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נריצך ונקדישך, נריצך ונקדישך, כסוציח שרי קודש, כסוציח שרי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וככה
When you finish, Jermidah, the Kaddish Alem, page 181.
יתקרב השם מרבה.
אמן.
ועלמא תברא קנותי וימליך וכותב בגיא כל אביבי כל אביבי נאומי ישראל. בגלה בזמן קריב אמרו אמן. יש מרבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישבח פרצו וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה. שמר קודשם ברכו לאלה מכל מגדה ושירתה תשבחתה ונגמתה דמי רמי עלמה ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צלבת עונך ישראל קדם אבוהן וישמעיה ואמרו אמן. יש רמה רבה משמעיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן.
So you may be seated. We turn to 182, and it looks like we got a nice crew for Ein Kelohenu. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Ein Kelohenu,
Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Mi Kelohenu, Mi Kadonenu, Mi Kemalkeinu. Eliana, keep the dog down. Sing. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekti Ruach Avoteinu, Lefanecha Ketoret Hasamim. We rise for Aleinu, page 183. Sorry. Turn around.
Aleinu l'shameach v'adon ha'avon, la'atei kedula v'yotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkeinu k'nahem, v'kor aleinu k'chol ha'monam. Yeah.
go take the front row, and then I'll call you back for Don Olam and Kiddush, okay? Go sit down. We remember today Angela Jean Clement, Anna Lachter, Diane Levin, Isidore Smolowitz, Jerome Gilbert, John P. Samela, Minnie Feldman, Philip Benjamin, Riva Shirley Gelb, Joyce Smith, Lottie Sampson, Rose Epstein, Ethel Lynn, Lena Proctor, Louis Rosen, David Harris, Harriet Frankel, Jenny Oransky, Samuel Rothman, William Dropkin, Dennis Greenberg, Leon Isaac Smith, Lillian Weisberg, Mary Smolowitz, Max Isaac Benader, Morton M. Schenkman, Alan Janowitz, Batya Axelrad, Bernard Axelrad, Pearl Brook, Ruth Hoffman Gordon, Solomon Cyrilnik, Barbara Stein, Fred Berger, Julius Eichholz. And we also express our condolences to Jeffrey Lidd on the loss of his mother, Rosalind, this week. Those observing a yard site or in the time of mourning, please join with me on 184. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah. B'alma divrach rutei v'yamlech malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei techol beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam alomei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitzadar v'yitzalev v'yitzalal shmei d'kudsha brichu la'ela min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran b'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav v'yaseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Don't forget, tomorrow, to everyone come back to hear from the Bima to Bebop with Cantor Schultz and some of the other cantors of our community at 4 o'clock tomorrow. Steve Wien will be teaching Talmud on Tuesday. Shared Shelf Book Club will be on Thursday. And very important, specific request from Joel that every single person that is here today come back Thursday night for the congregational meeting to ensure that we have a quorum, but really that we show up as a community to talk. Every year we have a meeting to make sure that we have a budget. Guess what? We have a budget, and thanks to everybody, it balances. That's a good thing. That's not something to take for granted. In the Jewish world, having a nonprofit where where our expenses and our income more or less match up. Yasher koach, everybody. There's a little note about a rabbi on there and a contract for that. There's a couple other important things on the agenda. So Thursday night it would be good to have a nice turnout at 7 o'clock. If you are doing an absentee ballot, that needs to be received in hand in the office by 4 o'clock. Torah at 10 on Friday. Next Friday night, we have Shabbat on the beach in a new location. We are trying in the downtown direction, but not actually downtown where you can't find a parking spot. It's Lassing Park. It's a lovely park that does have a beach, so we can still call it Shabbat on the beach. And it's a sort of long, narrow park along the water, and there is lots of parking on the street. There's no parking lot, but you are not going to be fighting everyone trying to go to St. Pete Beach, and also it's free parking. So next Friday night at 6:30. Next Saturday morning, I expect it to look exactly like this. It's so wonderful to see a nice group here. You can get your Sisterhood cookbook during the week. We want to thank the Sisterhood for co-sponsoring the Kiddush today in honor of the Simcha and Educator Shabbat. We want to thank Elliot, Elizabeth, and Avi Fitzgerald in honor of Ben Brash's engagement to Hannah White. And Ben is Herb and Sandy's son and grew up right here at CBI. So we are excited to have lots to celebrate today. I want to thank Maureen for leading Pesukei de Zimra and corralling children and junior congregation today. I want to thank Mark for Shacharit I want to thank Cantor for Torah service and all those who participated, to Linda for the Haftorah. That was lovely today. And I now have a presentation from the Minyanaires before we conclude our service.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Feels really nice to be back, be up here. This week, as you know, we read from Parshat Emor. It tells of God's commandments to keep Shabbat and how to celebrate many of our festivals. What's not listed is how we Jews can make every day more holy by gathering in a community to pray. Here at CBI, as we celebrate our 100th year of conservative Judaism in St. Petersburg, we continue to have the only egalitarian twice daily minyan on the west coast of Florida. Pretty impressive. Go group. This minyan does not happen, however, just because God commanded Jews to pray 3 times a day. It happens because of the dedication and the commitment of the people who come together and pray together. In addition to personal and community prayer, these services, which are now held some days in person, like Monday and Thursday mornings in the sanctuary at 8 o'clock, and virtually morning and evening every weekday, they allow people to schmooze, they allow people to celebrate together, and they allow us to support each other. CBI honors those who attend and sign in a minimum of 36 times a year. This special group of Minyanaires keeps our daily prayer happening. Today we honor our newest Minyanaire, Mark Gershon. The count continues through the last Friday in July, and you too can become a Minyanaire. Mark, Joel is to your side, and he is presenting you with your Minyanaire kippah. Check the CBI website for when we meet in person and for all the virtual times for our daily services. Mazel tov to Mark, and please remember, even if you come to Minyan in person, you must sign in virtually, and for those of you who come virtually, please always remember to sign in. That is how we count our Minyanaires. Everyone who comes counts for our services, but we can only acknowledge a Minyanaire by someone who signs in 36 times. Mazel tov, Mark.
And just thank you, Lori. And just as a reminder from our ritual conversation this past week, as Steve put into the email, when you're online, we need to see your face. And then if we want to read the Torah, we do need people in the room. So on Monday and Thursday, we really love, and Rosh Chodesh, we'd really love your assistance coming into the chapel and not only coming from home. So just that reminder. So I'm going to invite you guys back up here for Adon Olam, page 187. Helpful if we pick the same tune. Are you ready? Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra V'nasa V'sokol Azai Melech Shemo Nifra V'acharet Kichlot HaKol Levado Imloch Nora Ve'ohaya ve'ohve ve'hu yeh betifara ve'hu echad ve'en sheni le'amshilo le'achvira ve'li reshid ve'li tachlit lo ahoz ve'hamitzrach hu eli ve'chai go'ali ve'tzorev li ve'tzara ve'onisi umanos li menat kosir ve'yom ekra be'ado Hapki Druchim, Vietishan Me'aira, Vimruchi Geviati, Adonai Li Eloi. And you'll notice there are some little Kiddush cups down there. We rise for Kiddush. V'shamar b'nei Yisrael Shabbat la'asot Shabbat ha'rom barito ha'am beini uvein b'nei Yisrael tili olam ki sheish yishmim asad nayet shemayim v'et ha'aretz u'vayom ha'shvi'i Shabbat v'inafash zachor et yom ha'Shabbat le'kadsho al ken barach Adonai et yom ha'Shabbat v'kadshechu savri. Let's say it together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam borei pri ha'gafen. On Filat Yadayim. Okay, I need your help, guys.
What do we use?
Just put them right back on the tray. So we're going to say Hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam Hamotzi lechem min ha'aretz. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Please join us inside for a lovely Kiddush.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat. I cannot have the challah. It is sad.
Okay. Well, just rest
But you guys can have the challah. He said, but you guys can enjoy the challah. How you doing?
So here's where all the Purim costumes are stored. Wait. Okay, there we go.
So we're just done in here, nowhere.
Then it goes up. And then there's the storage room, and then there's a storage room on the other side.